The old farmhouse at the edge of the forest like a forgotten scar, its windows dark, the wind whistling through shattered panes. K9's paws crunched over broken glass, ears twitching at every creak of the rotting floorboards. In the dim light, he froze, sniffing, nose twitching, then pawed at something lying on the dust-covered floor. A child's drawing, edges curled and stained, depicting a smiling family but with one figure scratched out. Mara, the young handler, crouched beside him, heart thudding. Some stories are buried for a reason. Some doors, once open, can never be closed. The sky over Willow Creek had the color of ash, and the first drizzle of evening rain made the dirt road slick, sticky with mud. Mara Hart pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders, feeling the chill creep under the collar. She had been called to this abandoned farmhouse after the neighbors reported strange sounds, scratching at the windows, shadows moving inside. Most would have called the police, but Mara had K9, and that changed everything. The German shepherd, a towering mix of muscle and keen intelligence, sniffed the ground, nose low, tail stiff. His name was Jax, and he wasn't just a pet. He was a partner, a confidant, a creature who read the world differently. The moment they crossed the rickety threshold into the house, Mara felt the air thicken. Old wood rotted, and the faint, sour smell of mold mixed with something sweeter, almost metallic. Blood? She didn't know yet, but her gut tightened. K9 froze at the foot of the staircase, low growl vibrating in his chest. Mara followed his gaze. The stairs groaned under her weight, a sound that seemed unervingly loud in the empty house. The light from her flashlight cut a narrow tunnel through the darkness, illuminating peeling wallpaper, splintered doorframes, and scattered debris. She could almost hear the house breathing. Then K9 barked, a sharp, precise sound. Mara rushed forward. In the corner of the room, under a broken chair, lay something that didn't belong, a child's drawing. She picked it up gingerly, brushing away years of dust. The paper was crumpled, edges yellowed, but the colors were vivid, a family drawn with clumsy hands. At first glance, it was innocent, a son, stick figures, a small dog, but Mara's breath caught. One figure, middle, perhaps the mother or father, was scratched out, replaced with jagged lines that had almost the same intensity as a scream. She looked at Jax. His ears were pinned back. He pawed the floor, anxious but alert. Something in the dog's stance told her he knew more than he could say. Mara's own chest tightened with a mix of dread and curiosity. "This isn't just a kid's scribble," she murmured. "Something happened here. Something they didn't want anyone to see." The rain outside picked up, hammering against the tin roof in relentless sheets. Mara scanned the room with her flashlight. Broken furniture leaned at odd angles. A rusty kettle teetered on the edge of a collapsed counter. And then she noticed it. Faint footprints in the mud tracked across the floorboards, leading into a back room. They were small, child-sized, and recent. Mara swallowed hard, debating whether to call the sheriff. Part of her wanted to flee, to leave the mystery behind, but another part, the part that had dedicated her life to helping the vulnerable, wouldn't let her. K9 whined softly, nudging her hand. She bent down, feeling the pulse of the dog beneath her fingers, and whispered, "Let's see what secrets you've been guarding, boy." The back room was worse than she imagined. A once cozy nursery, now stripped bare, with peeling paint and a lone rocking chair swaying slightly, as if moved by invisible hands. Mara's flashlight caught something in the corner, another drawing, pinned to the wall with a rusty nail. This one was more disturbing. Stick figures danced around what looked like a house, flames licking at its roof, and in the center, the same figure scratched out from the first drawing. Jax growled low. Mara's hand instinctively moved to the small knife she carried on her belt, a precaution she rarely needed in the quiet outskirts of Willow Creek. Her mind raced. Who lived here? Where was the child? And why had this house been left to rot with such evidence? Footsteps creaked from above, the floorboards groaning under weight. Mara froze. K9's hackles rose. "Hello!" She called softly, hoping the sound of her voice wouldn't provoke whoever, or whatever, was there. Silence, then a shuffle, faint but deliberate. She stepped back, heart hammering, trying to locate the source. Suddenly, the ceiling beam above her cracked, sending a cloud of dust into the air. Something fell, a piece of old wood, and Jax barked ferociously, charging forward. Mara followed, flashlight beam darting across the room. At first, she saw nothing. Then, in the corner, a shadow moved, quick and deliberate, almost human, and then the figure froze. It was a man, not old, but hardened, face lined not just with age, but with worry, guilt, and something darker Mara couldn't name. His eyes flickered over her, calculating, uncertain. "Who are you?" Mara demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. The man's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "I could ask you the same thing," he said. There was a hesitation, a crack in his voice that betrayed fear. Or was it shame? Mara took a cautious step closer. "This house," she said, pointing to the drawings. "What happened here?" He looked away, gaze fixed on a corner, where a faint outline of a small handprint remained on the wall. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered. "Not yet. Not until you understand." Jax growled a low, warning rumble. The man flinched, and Mara saw it. The fear of someone carrying a secret too heavy to bear. "Look," she said carefully, "I just want to help. If a child, if anyone is in danger, I need to know." The man's shoulders slumped, and for a moment, he looked like a man broken by the weight of his own choices. "You don't understand," he said. "The child, they're gone. And some things, some people, they'll kill to keep buried." Mara's heart sank. And yet, despite the danger, a stubborn flame of determination lit inside her. She wasn't leaving, not while there were clues, questions, or a trace of life that needed protecting. Jack sat beside her, tail stiff, eyes sharp, as if agreeing silently that whatever lay ahead, they'd face it together. Outside, the storm intensified, drumming against the house like a warning. Mara felt it deep in her bones. This was only the beginning. The child, the drawings, the shadows in the house. They were pieces of a puzzle that refused to stay silent. And somewhere out there, the person who had left this house to rot was watching, waiting, calculating. A creak behind her, a whisper of movement. Mara spun, knife raised, breath shallow. Jax barked, leaping forward, teeth bared. And then silence. The only sound was the rain, the wind, and the relentless beating of her own heart. Mara stepped cautiously toward the staircase, flashlight sweeping upward. A single broken window allowed the storm to spill in, rain soaking the cracked floorboards. She could just make out the outline of a second floor, one that might hold answers or more danger. "Do you see him?" the man asked suddenly, his voice low and urgent. Mara looked back. He had taken a step closer, eyes darting to the broken chair and scattered papers. He's not supposed to be here. Not anyone." Mara's pulse quickened. "Who?" she asked, but the man's silence was answer enough. Jax growled again, sniffing the air, tense, muscles coiled. The wind gusted through the broken roof, scattering papers, one drifting down to Mara's feet. Another drawing. Same family, same scratched-out figure, but this one had words, scrawled in uneven letters, "Don't tell." Her stomach twisted. Whoever had lived here had been desperate to hide something, and now the clues were calling her in, daring her to uncover the truth. She looked at Jax. His ears twitched, and he nudged the drawing with his nose. Something about his behavior, the intensity, the focus, made Mara realize that the dog knew more than she had ever seen in an animal before. And for the first time, fear was mixed with resolve. This wasn't just a case of a missing child or an abandoned house. There was a story here, buried deep and dark, and Mara was going to find it. The man's gaze followed hers, uneasy. "You shouldn't," he said again, more firmly this time. "Once you start, there's no going back." Mara didn't answer. She tucked the drawings into her coat and whispered, "We'll see about that." Jax barked softly, like an echo of agreement. Together, they moved toward the staircase, each step creaking under their weight, carrying them closer to the secrets hidden in the shadows above. Some secrets refuse to die. Some houses never forgive. And in the shadows of Willow Creek, Mara and K9 were about to uncover the first one. The second floor of the farmhouse loomed above Mara like a shadowed fortress. Every step up the creaking staircase sent shivers down her spine, but she had Jax at her side, muscles taut, ears alert. The storm outside had intensified. Sheets of rain battered the tin roof, echoing through the house like 1,000 tiny drums. Mara's flashlight swept across the walls, illuminating faded wallpaper peeling in jagged strips. The smell of damp and rot was stronger here, mingling with a faint, almost sweet scent that reminded her of old varnish, and something darker she couldn't name. Jax stopped at the top of the stairs, growling softly. Mara crouched beside him, peering into the first room. At first, it seemed empty, save for the remnants of furniture long since abandoned. But as her eyes adjusted, she noticed faint markings on the floorboards, scuffs and scratches that looked deliberate, almost like someone had tried to hide something beneath them. She knelt, running her fingers over the wood. Dust crumbled beneath her touch, revealing the edges of a trapdoor. Her heart hammered. Whoever had lived here had hidden something, and it wasn't a coincidence. Mara's mind raced with possibilities. Could it be evidence of a crime? Or... Her stomach twisted at the thought. A clue to the child who had left these drawings behind? Jax barked sharply, nudging her shoulder. Mara glanced up, and her flashlight caught the figure of the man from below the stairs. He had followed silently, his expression unreadable, eyes dark and wary. "You don't want to do this," he said, voice low and rough. "Whatever is down there, it's dangerous. More than you can handle." Mara's pulse quickened, but she didn't retreat. "I handle danger every day," she said, though the edge in her voice betrayed her fear. "This child, someone has to find them. Someone has to know what happened." The man shook his head slowly. "You don't understand. Some things, some truths, are meant to stay buried. If anyone finds out, people will get hurt. People you care about." Mara's fingers tightened around the trapdoor. "I don't care about me. I care about the child. If they're alive..." Jax's growl deepened, vibrating through floorboards. Mara felt the tension, and the room thicken. She knew the dog was right. This man was hiding something, maybe more than one thing, and he wasn't going to give up easily. "All right," she said slowly, meeting his gaze. "If you won't help, I'll do it myself." She lifted the trapdoor, the hinges groaning in protest, and shone her flashlight inside. Dust swirled up, and her heart nearly stopped. A small staircase descended into darkness. The man's face tightened. "I warned you." Mara swallowed and stepped down, Jax close behind. The air grew colder, heavier, and a faint, metallic smell assaulted her senses. The walls were lined with shelves, and scattered across them were objects that told a story of a family long gone. A broken toy soldier, a chipped doll, a small pair of shoes, and, most hauntingly, another drawing. This one was pinned with a rusty nail to the back wall. A family again, but this time the figures were twisted, jagged, angry, and in the center, the same figure was scratched out more violently than before. Her stomach churned. Whoever had done this had been trying to erase someone, and the act was filled with rage and fear. Suddenly, Jax barked and growled at the far end of the room. Mara swung her flashlight, heart hammering, and froze. The trapdoor behind her had slammed shut. She spun, pulling at it, but it wouldn't budge. Panic rose, but she forced herself to stay calm. Jax nudged her hand, reminding her to focus. The man's voice echoed down from above. "I told you, some things are dangerous. You shouldn't have come here." Mara gritted her teeth. "Then tell me what happened. Why the drawings? Why the child?" There was a long pause. When he finally spoke, his words cut through the storm outside like a knife. The child was never supposed to be found. That house, that family, we made mistakes. Horrible mistakes. And we tried to hide it. But someone saw. Mara's mind raced. "Who?" she demanded. The man's face hardened, eyes dark. "Someone you know. Someone you trust." A cold weight settled in Mara's stomach. She looked at Jax, who whined softly, sensing the gravity of the confession. Betrayal. Broken trust. These words floated in the damp air like smoke. And Mara realized, whatever had happened here, it wasn't just an abandoned house. It was the epicenter of lies, guilt, and fear. She moved closer to the shelves, examining the objects. One item caught her eye, a small blood-stained notebook. She picked it up with trembling hands, flipping through pages filled with childlike scrawls and frantic notes in adult handwriting. Names, dates, cryptic warnings, and finally, a single line that made her blood run cold. They cannot know. If they do, it will end them. Her gaze shot to the man. Who? She asked, voice trembling. Who will it end? He shook his head, jaw tight. You don't understand the reach of what was done here. Some people have power. Some people will kill to bury the past. Jax growled again, moving to stand between Mara and the man, his muscles coiled, ready to spring. Mara's hand shook as she held the notebook close, the weight of the truth pressing down on her. The storm outside seemed to echo the tension inside the house. Rain hammered against the walls. Wind rattled the broken windows, and Mara felt the walls themselves closing in. She realized with a sinking heart that this was only the beginning. The child's drawings, a hidden room, the man's confession. They were pieces of a puzzle far larger than she had imagined. Then she heard it, a faint whimper, coming from beneath a pile of debris in the corner. Mara's heart leapt. She rushed forward, brushing aside broken wood and plaster. And there, curled up, small and trembling, was a child. Mud-streaked, frightened but alive. Shoo, it's okay, Mara whispered, kneeling beside the child. Jax sniffed carefully, then nudged the child gently. A tiny hand reached out to stroke his fur. Mara's eyes met the man's. His expression was unreadable, torn between relief and fear. Who are you? The child asked, voice quivering. Mara swallowed hard. I'm here to help. You're safe now. The man's gaze dropped to the floor. I couldn't protect them. I tried. His voice broke, and for the first time, Mara saw the full weight of his guilt. Jax whined softly, nudging Mara's hand, and she realized that the dog had led her here, not just to the drawings, but to the child. The realization hit her with a mixture of awe and fear. This was bigger than anyone could imagine. Outside, the storm showed no signs of stopping. Mara knew they couldn't stay. They had to leave, had to get the child to safety. But as she helped the child to their feet, she felt a chill. Someone had followed them here. Someone had been watching. And the man, morally gray, secretive, haunted by his own failures, might not be the only threat. She looked at Jax, who barked softly, tail stiff. Together, they would face whatever came next. But Mara knew one thing. Willow Creek had more secrets than anyone could count, and every secret had a price. The storm raged, but Mara felt a flicker of hope. For now, the child was alive. For now, they had answers. But the house, the drawings, and the shadows that lingered in every corner, they were far from finished with her. And as they descended the staircase, Mara knew this was only the beginning of a darkness that would reach far beyond the farmhouse, beyond the storm, and deep into the hearts of everyone who had tried to bury the truth. The rain had slowed to a persistent drizzle, but the sky remained a bruised gray over Willow Creek. Mara carried the child, cradled gently in her arms, through the twisting corridors of the farmhouse. The hidden basement felt like a nightmare made real, dusty, dark, lined with remnants of lives stolen or abandoned. Jax padded quietly beside her, muscles taut, alert to every sound. The storm outside had passed, but inside, tension pulsed like a heartbeat, uneven and threatening. The man from earlier, who Mara had started calling Eli in her mind, followed silently, shoulders hunched, guilt etched into every line of his face. He kept his distance, eyes darting nervously. He was morally gray in the purest sense. Protector and conspirator, victim and enabler, trapped between the wrongs he had committed and the desperate desire to make things right. Mara didn't trust him entirely, but she knew she needed his knowledge to get the child to safety. Listen carefully, Eli whispered, voice low, almost a tremor. They'll come for the child. They always do. Whoever left the drawings, they're not done. If we leave here unprepared, it won't just be the child who's in danger. Mara's pulse accelerated. Who are they? She asked. Who want to hurt this child? Eli hesitated, glancing at the walls, then back at Mara. People with power. People who deal in secrets. Willow Creek isn't what it seems. The house, The family, we uncovered something we weren't supposed to, something worth killing for. The words hung heavy in the damp air. Mara tightened her grip on the child, feeling a shiver of fear she couldn't ignore. Her instincts screamed that danger was closer than they realized. Jax growled softly, his body stiff, ears swiveling toward the staircase. A noise, soft, almost imperceptible, echoed through the hall. Mara froze. Eli stiffened, and then from the shadowed doorway, a figure emerged. It was a woman, tall, slender, with sharp eyes that glimmered with intelligence and malice. Mara's breath caught. She recognized her from the notes in the basement. Someone with a long reach, someone who had orchestrated the cover-up. "You shouldn't be here," the woman said, voice deceptively calm. "The child belongs to us." "That house," it was a warning. "Now you've opened it, and you'll pay the price." Jax barked fiercely, lunging forward, and Mara instinctively stepped in front of the child. Eli raised his hands, a silent plea for calm, but his fear was evident. The woman's smile was thin, cruel, and Mara realized in a heartbeat that this wasn't just about hiding a past. It was about control, power, and secrets no one was meant to uncover. Mara's mind raced. She couldn't call for help. Phones were useless in this part of the creek, and the roads were slick with mud. They were on their own. She glanced at Eli. "You said people with power. This woman, is she one of them?" Eli nodded reluctantly. "Yes. She's behind the original cover-up. She's the reason the child had to be hidden. And now she's come back to finish it." The tension in the air was palpable. Mara had to act fast. She scanned the room, old furniture, broken beams, scattered debris. Her hand brushed against a metal rod on the floor, and an idea sparked. Jax barked again, and Mara whispered a plan. The confrontation was chaotic. Mara used the rod to block the woman's path, while Eli created a diversion, moving toward the far end of the hall. Jax sprang, teeth bared, growling low, forcing the woman to step back. Mara grabbed the child and ducked behind a toppled cabinet. The woman lunged, but her foot caught on a floorboard, sending her sprawling into the wall. For a moment, silence. Mara held her breath, heart hammering. The child clung to her, wide-eyed but silent. She could feel Jax's body press against hers, protective and unwavering. Then the woman stood, brushing herself off, rage flickering in her eyes. "You think this ends here?" she hissed. "You can't stop what's coming. You're just delaying the inevitable." Mara met her gaze steadily. "Maybe, but we're not afraid anymore." The standoff broke when a loud crash sounded from the outside. Eli had thrown a piece of debris against the windows, breaking them and creating a distraction. Mara seized a moment, sprinting toward the back door with the child and Jax close behind. The woman screamed, furious, but didn't pursue immediately, distracted by the shattered windows and the sound of movement. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the forest surrounding the farmhouse was dark and foreboding. Mara navigated the slick mud, carrying the child, while Jax led the way, sniffing and guiding them along a faint trail she hadn't noticed before. The forest seemed alive with shadows, and every snapped twig made her heart leap. Eli followed behind, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "We can't go far," he said urgently. "They'll send others. We need a place to hide, somewhere they won't find us." Mara nodded, scanning the trees. "There's an old cabin, abandoned, a mile east. We can make it there before dark." The trek was grueling. Mud sucked at their boots, branches clawed at their faces, and the child whimpered softly in Mara's arms. But Jax never faltered, his instincts guiding them through the darkness. Mara realized with a mix of awe and gratitude that the dog was more than a partner. He was a guardian, a sentinel who understood danger in ways humans couldn't. By the time they reached the cabin, night had fallen fully. Mara set the child down gently, letting them catch their breath. Jax circled the perimeter, growling softly, alert to every sound. Mara felt exhaustion clawing at her, but she couldn't let it show. Not yet. Eli leaned against the wall, running a hand over his face. "We're not safe," he admitted, voice low. "They know we're out here. They'll come. We have to be ready." Mara nodded, her mind racing. "We'll protect the child, and we'll find out who they are and why." The child, sensing some measure of safety, whispered softly, "Thank you." Mara felt a lump in her throat. For all the danger, all the fear, this moment, this fragile trust, was worth it. Hours passed in tense silence. Mara kept watch, her flashlight sweeping the shadows, ears straining for the slightest sound. Eli finally spoke quietly. "I should tell you everything," he said. "You deserve the truth. The child, the drawings that's bigger than any of us. And some of it, I was part of it. I failed them." Mara listened, heart heavy, but she didn't interrupt. The confession was necessary, painful though it was. She had seen the man's guilt earlier, but now the depth of it was clear. He was flawed, morally gray, but still human, still capable of helping undo the wrongs he'd been part of. By dawn, the storm had passed entirely. Mist clung to the trees, and a pale sun began to pierce the forest canopy. Mara looked at the child, asleep against a makeshift bed of blankets, and felt a quiet determination settle within her. They had survived the night. They had survived the farmhouse and the secrets it had held. But Mara knew this wasn't the end. The shadows of Willow Creek, of those who wanted the past buried, still lingered. And yet, she felt something else too, a flicker of hope, fragile but real. They had faced darkness and lived. And that mattered. Eli stepped beside her, his expression unreadable. "We'll have to disappear for a while," he said quietly. "They'll come looking, but I'll help. I owe them that much." Mara nodded, understanding the weight of his words. In this world of secrets, betrayals, and danger, trust was a rare commodity. But for now, they had it. Fragile, but enough to keep them alive. As the sun rose over Willow Creek, Mara looked at Jax, who sat proudly beside her. The dog's eyes reflected both the night behind them and the uncertain future ahead. Mara whispered, softly, almost to herself, "We made it for now." And in that quiet moment, surrounded by mist and the lingering shadows of the storm, Mara understood something profound. Some secrets cannot be destroyed. They live in the hearts of those who carry them, in the choices they make, and in the courage to face the darkness when it comes. The child stirred, blinking sleep from wide eyes. Mara smiled faintly, offering reassurance. "You're safe," she said again. For now. Outside, the forest was still, but not silent. Somewhere beyond the edge of sight, shadows waited. But Mara knew they had survived the night, and for the first time since the farmhouse, she allowed herself a moment of calm. The past was never truly gone, but sometimes survival, hope, was enough.